Tim, hi, great to see you.
Chris, it's lovely to be online with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Pleasure. So your role, firstly.
So, Chris, I am partner of an online collaboration business called The Culture Experiment. I'm also a partner of the SO Team, which is an innovation and design thinking business. I'm a guest lecturer at Oxford University and also Skolkovo University in Moscow, Russia. And I'm a non-executive board member for a food group as well.
Fantastic. So who's inspired you? You've inspired many people, but who's inspired you as a leader?
So many people, Chris, but there's one person that comes to mind, and that is a gentleman called David Broadhead. Now, David Broadhead used to be the resident manager of Claridge's Hotel in London. Then he was the resident manager for Penny Hill Park Hotel, which is the glorious five-star hotel. And then he moved over to the Travellers Club, where he is the secretary of the Travellers Club on Pall Mall. Now, David is one of those amazing people that you come across in life, and he's just got this magnetism about him because he's kind, he's generous and super smart, but he's just really a wonderful human being. And David once told me, he said to me, he said, Tim, do you know who the most important, this is when we were working in Claridge's together. He said, do you know who the most important person in this hotel is? And I went, the GM, you, shareholders of the Savoy Group that obviously had Claridge's at the time. And he went, no, Tim, most important person is the person that cleans the toilets. And I went, what is he talking about? And he said, well, if the person that's cleaning the toilets didn't clean the toilets very well, and when you came into work, you're looking around you and suddenly you're, let's say, getting changed in a grubby environment, or you were looking at things in a way that they should actually, be looking pristine, but actually they're not, then you're going to have an attitude going, oh, have I come along to this hotel and why am I working here when it's esteemed, but I don't feel that it's that esteemed. And then when you go front of house, you take that with you, and then a client or somebody who's coming to spend some time at the hotel then goes, well, okay, they seem to have a chip on their shoulder, they don't seem to love the place, so why should I love the place? And I think it just cascades from there. I mean, it's funny that as I've gone through work, that stuck with me. But then I came across the story, and I'm sure you've already heard this story about JFK, was going through, in 1962, he was walking through the hallowed walls of NASA, and it was his first tour. And as he was walking through, he suddenly saw a janitor with a broom, and he peeled himself away from all of these wonderful scientists who were showcasing everything. And he went up to the janitor and he said, hi, my name's Jack. What do you do? And the janitor turned around and said, I'm putting a man on the moon, Mr. President. And suddenly it was like, I mean, even now, I start tingling, because that, I think, is so apropos to anything. Have a purpose, know what your purpose is, and do it really, really well. And then, as a result, other people around you will have pride. They have purpose. And, the French have a saying, there's no such thing as a stupid job. And I think that's absolutely it. If you do your job and you love your job and you do it with purpose and pride, then the rest just follows. So yes, sorry, I know I wibbled on there, Chris, but it's exciting.
Great stories. Here comes the real crunch question though, Tim, doesn't it? What's been the greatest learning for you beyond that? What's been your greatest learning in your career?
Oh my God, what's been my greatest learning? There's so many, Chris. I've made so many mistakes, so many failures, so many kind of, proverbial cock-ups. I think that for me, the biggest learning is about being true to yourself, know what your voice is, and celebrate it. So if you're, there's a purpose, there's a reason why we're all different. And I think if we try to be other people, we can aspire to take personality traits from others, But I think if we try to fundamentally change who we are to be like somebody else, then the world's missing out on something, because it's that difference that is exciting, that makes places more interesting as a culture within an organization. And so it's about, knowing what you stand for, holding true to it, and living up to it every day you possibly can. And knowing what your tone is, your vernacular, knowing how you engage with people. I think for me, that's been the biggest learning. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. Now, success and failure come to all of us, as you already mentioned. How has it impacted on you? How do both impact on you?
So my failure, I learned the hard way, I think, as we all do. But I took a job. It was my first GM role, and I went for the money. I didn't go for, everyone was saying, don't go for it, Tim. You're not ready. You're not ready. I was saying, but I'm being offered the job, so I must take the job, right? And it was doubling my salary. I mean, I was still in the world of catering at that time. And I went, wow, this is great. But, warning signals are up. My gut's telling me, don't take it. However, I plunged straight in, and it was a complete disaster. It was a disaster. I lost my own belief in myself. I was constantly kind of undermining myself, going, oh, I'm not quite sure if I know how to do this. Oh, I haven't been in this situation before. And suddenly you realize, all of your kind of, all of the aspects that aren't completely rounded as yet. And I went into that headlong, and they all became very exposed very quickly. And so listening to others who know me and know also potentially of another job role and everything else would have been a really smart thing to do. Do some insight on myself, Chris, I think, more than anything else.
Success?
Wow. So, I don't know. So there's one thing that comes to mind. I felt, it was one of, we had the ability in my first consultancy that I was working with to go and do some non-profit work. And we went to, and you had to give up kind of like, X period of time. And, it was in northern Kenya near Lake Nakuru. And I'd never been to, that side of Africa before. I didn't really know what kind of, giving your time up for others was really all about. I thought, yes, you can carry your grandma's bags and then, you're on course. But no, this is a lot bigger, a lot bolder. And we went there, and just seeing people's faces being so delighted that you care enough to give up some of your own time to be with them. And the smallest actions that you can therefore, that you share with those people suddenly has the hugest impact. And since then, I came back, and that must have been when I think I must have been about through 32, 33, I'm 49 now. And when I came back, I just made a pledge to myself, look for more non-profit work to put into the mix. I wish I could say I do it all the time, but I don't. And I find that that's okay, because it's, that's the agreement I had with myself. But it's probably the most rewarding work that I do. And so that, I feel, is like that's a lifelong success. It's like something that sits with me really nicely, and I feel really proud of it. And I seek out more of those experiences as a result.
Now, can you give me a story or something that's impacted on you as a leader and changed the way you think about things?
As somebody,
it can be an event, it can be an experience, it could be anything.
I do have one. They're not necessarily somebody who, quintessentially sits in the world of, kind of the professional work that I do.
Doesn't matter.
But Sammy Davis Jr. Now, Sammy Davis Jr. was one of the Rat Pack, and he was the only black guy in the Rat Pack.
Yeah.
And at the time, in the 50s, 60s, obviously, lots of stuff with regards to race was going on in America. And he stood tall. He was a short fella, squiffy eye, but my God, he could dance, he could sing, and he knew what friendship was all about. And, you know, he was able to overcome so much, but did it in such a beautiful, humble way. And his friends supported him. And for them, it was never an issue race. It was about the integrity and the belief you have in humanity and doing something together, which brings joy and happiness to people's lives. And I talk to my kids now about Sammy Davis Jr. and how startling this, you know, this young, short, squiffy-eyed guy was, and how he brought so much happiness and joy to people, but remarkable with regards to the Rat Pack friendship and how they worked together and supported each other. I think that there was one particular show where they were down south in the States at the time, and his three other buddies, they said, you can come on stage and you've got this particular dressing room, but you know, segregation is key down here. And Sammy Davis Jr. had to be, you know, they were saying, you're not going to be able to perform, or you're going to be in a separate room. Everyone said, we're not doing it then. That's it. This is us. We're together. And I love that stalwart belief in friendship, collaboration, integrity. Yeah, there you go. I know that's a bit off-piste.
No, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So final question. What would you say to your 18-year-old self if you're giving some advice?
Get a job. What would I say to my 18-year-old self? I think it would have to be, everyone has voices in their heads. Nobody's able to mind read anybody else. And so it's okay to have different voices, because that's thinking. It's your actions, though, that really count. And so allow yourself the time to understand what's really important for you, what's the footprint and the impact you want to have on others, and then make small little actions based on what you believe and know to be you, being the true you. Small little actions that support that. That's what I'd say to myself. And a jolly good dose of humility, boy.
Okay, final question. Because I know you're a great advocate for good manners and etiquette and presenting. Yes. Why?
I think that it's the glue that sticks people together. I think that having great etiquette and manners and just, you know, making sure that the small things that you can do for yourself and for others keeps everything moving and everything else becomes easier. I think that conversations become easier, even tricky conversations. If you're finding out how somebody is and they're finding out how you are, already you're basing a conversation on trust and belief in each other, and therefore all the other things can happen really quickly and easily. But I think having just the basis of those small little nuances and things that you do that is based on just goodness and kindness with each other, which I believe is manners, and etiquette, being able to bring people on board quickly by just your own personal belief and understanding in yourself and how you project yourself is really key.
Oh, Tim, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
I really love talking to you, Chris. Thank you so much.